Well, we did call a move. We just maybe didn't get it quite as right as we expected. Terra Luna Classic has had a big sell-off, but the positive news is it feels like, as usual, people are backing to support that price fall. We're going to take a look at the price, and in particular, we are going to be looking at proposal 11005 and exactly what this could mean for the burn tax and ultimately the longer-term goals of Terra Luna Classic. Now, if we take a look at the overall market as we have just gone into a new day here in the UK, we can see 849.7 billion is our current total market cap, just down 1.37%, but it does feel like we are coming back up, and I would expect us to potentially turn green, which would be a good sign through the course of the weekend. Certainly going into the next week would be a good bullish indicator, certainly coming out of it. So we can see a couple of green candles, a couple of green coins there as we move our way down, and you can see as we get further down, 39th highest ranked cryptocurrency right now is Terra Luna Classic, stepped up from the 42nd where it was. $1.36 billion is the market cap, and $99.7 million is the volume, which is actually a step on from where we have been. Now, obviously, we got that 6.4 billion Terra Luna Classic burn from Binance, which ultimately makes a small dent in our circulating supply, but our volume has managed to stay around that 100 million mark. Now, what we obviously want to see is equal A, burn tax increased, i.e. volume going through, and equally maintaining a solid volume through the course of the next month that we will see. Now, Binance already announced that they will be doing another monthly burn, so all this nonsense you hear about people saying that Binance are stopping the burns, no, they're not. There was never an end date to it, and they have announced their next burn month. And it's important that, like I said, at the minute, it just feel like there's a lot of people out there talking about Binance stopping burning. It's just simply not true. So before we get further in this video, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, keep up to date with everything going on in Terra Luna Classic, leave a thumbs up if you would be so kind. Now, here we go on the daily chart, and we'll go slightly nearer in just a second. You see we're trending well under the 50 and the 100-day EMA, which is a, it's kind of a bearish indicator, but we can see a slight trend here over the course of the last 9 days where we start to move up potentially into a bullish movement for Luna Classic. I think ultimately it depends fundamentally on what the market does, but you can see 17,319 the current price. Now, if we go in a bit nearer onto the hour chart, you can see this kind of big sell-off here that we got earlier on in today, but positively we are just coming to really test that 100-day EMA and see kind of what that does, but again, still under. We were trending well above the 50-day EMA for a long time, but broke through and headed down this way, so we'll see what happens. But it does feel like people are buying back in. Feels like some big institutional sell-off on there. We'll try and get you exactly what that was over the course of the next couple of hours, so stay tuned on Twitter for that. But RSI trending oversold, but it's coming back pretty nicely. Now, what have we got coming up? Well, 11009 is the current proposal around the osmosis to support the burn tax. Well, ultimately, I'm kind of okay with this. I think it's a positive thing, but I think ultimately it has to work both for osmosis and equally for Terra Luna Classic. And I think whenever we talk about burn tax, we need to make sure that it's working for both parties, particularly when we can bring volume back in, and more importantly, applications to build on our blockchain. So like we said, taking a look exactly what osmosis is. It's an interchain liquidity lab. Swap, earn, and build on the leading decentralized Cosmosis exchange, which is pretty exciting. Now, we know we have 4 re-enablements of IBC. Now, there is Terra Luna Classic locked into osmosis, and what we don't want to do is see a gigantic flood into the market and it all just sell off. Ultimately, it's going to get the price down. Now, I do think we would see people taking that opportunity to buy back in, but it's an interchain decentralized exchange. You can see $167 million, 13.4 million in 24-hour trading volume, and over 1,000 interchain transfers. So this is not small change when it comes to, osmosis and what it ultimately can bring to Terra Luna Classic. So let's get into a little bit more about this proposal. Now, bear in mind, this is part of the Cosmos team as well. It says the proposal is meant to gauge overall community interest in osmosis, implementing support for off-chain tax collection and remittance following the upcoming reconnection of the Osmosis Lunk IBC channel. This is to say we do collectively wish for osmosis to support the burn off-chain. It would be another little part that ultimately removes supply from from Terra Luna Classic. And he says, what are we asking for from Osmosis? We are signaling to Osmosis that the Luna Classic community wishes the burn to be implemented on the Osmosis decks to both LUNC and USTC related. The incentivize Osmosis to support the tax off-chain. We propose that the following burn revenue share structure, 90% of the collected tax to be sent back to the Terra and into the burn wallet, and the remaining 10% should be sent to Osmosis community pool or smart contracts solely controlled by their governance mechanism. And this is where it's pretty exciting that ultimately we will support Osmosis, which saw a massive drain on liquidity when Luna Classic crashed. So it supports them, and ultimately 90% of the transactions, bear in mind what we just talked about, you know, in this 13.4 million trading volume, and equally over 1,000 transfers, interchange transfers, then, you know, 90% of that is a chunk of change, which I think is definitely worthwhile and ultimately supports both chains. And that is the benefit of the IBC opening up, is that it has to support Osmosis and Luna Classic, which I think is great. And it says, how is this going to be accomplished? This is the important bit. It can't just be we mint coins or we do kind of crazy stuff. It says the creation of a coin token, agnostic and governance controlled burn module that allows for Osmosis decks to place a percentage-based premium on any coin or token on their decks via governance vote. The premium can be placed into the front and back end of swaps on their decks in order to avoid destabilizing their uniquely hard-coded liquidity pool structure. The coins collected will then be sent to an Osmosis smart contract and then would be sent to the coins back to Terra and into the burn wallet, and also the Osmosis community pool at 90% and to 10% basis as discussed above. So pretty important stuff. And ultimately, what is the feeling out there right now from Terra Luna Classic? Well, you can see the actual proposal here, 11005, signaling proposal, LUNC request Osmosis support the burn tax. Ultimately, everything in there is what we've talked about. Now, we have seen 9 currently voting yes, and it obviously has a fair way to go to reach quorum, which it then becomes a almost passed. But we have so far, Classy Crypto has voted yes, the Lunatics token validator has voted yes, a couple of the other smaller validators have gone and said yes. We wait for the bigger validators with this big swing power. Now, this is a problem in some respects, in my view. You've got someone like All Nodes. Basically, if All Nodes votes on it, it's very much likely it's going to go through. Likewise with Interstellar and Orion, because they have such a massive voting power that's attached to it. So there's definitely a challenge here where we need to be mindful of when we are staking our Luna Classic, that we are making sure we are staking with the right people that ultimately support long term with this blockchain. So we're going to have to really see what this looks like. But certainly for me, it is another part of the burn mechanism. And I've talked about this on a number of videos, that it isn't just about, well, okay, we're just going to burn 1 trillion Luna Classic. It's not going to work. We need small things that continually burn, that are part of the ecosystem, that both support longevity and continuous growth. And I think when we see IBC re-enablement for Osmosis, given what it's all about and given its pairing to Luna Classic, well, I think it's a pretty exciting proposal, and I for one think it is a good idea. But you guys let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Do you think the Osmosis should support the off-chain burn tax, or do you think it should go back to how it was and ultimately just an inter-blockchain that we can be used? Interested to hear what you say. As ever, don't forget to like and share this video. Also subscribe if you're not already, to talk about everything to do with cryptocurrency. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.